Caribbean police chiefs elect Chief of Police Carl John as new ACCP Chairman, Minister of Education. Melissa Gums is updating members of Parliament on the structured breakfast program. 2 suspects arrested. Following armed robbery investigation in Simpson Bay. Minister Richinel Brugge, do you manage to? I agree with your point that good governance. From the island, St. Martin, this is SXM Daily News for May 29th, 2026. Chief of Police Carl John of St. Martin has been elected chairman of the ACCP. The election took place during the 40th Annual General Meeting and Conference of the Association of Caribbean Commissioners of Police, ACCP, held from 11 to 15 May 2026 at the Royal Torrerica Hotel in Paramaribo, Suriname. Chief of Police John had served as first vice chairman since 2025 and now succeeds the outgoing chairman. The election of Chief of Police John as chairman of the ACCP further strengthens the position of the Caribbean part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands within the regional police and security structure. As chairman, he will play an important role over the coming year in regional police cooperation and the further development of joint security initiatives. For Commissioner John, the election came as a complete surprise. Within the ACCP, candidates cannot nominate themselves. Candidates are nominated from within the group. The election reflects the confidence and trust he enjoys within the region. Founded in 1987, the ACCP is the regional organization of police commissioners from across the Caribbean and brings together more than 20 countries and territories. The theme of this year's conference was Organized Crime, Implications for Regional Development. The impact of organized crime on security, the economy, and social development was central during this year's conference. Discussions focused on the increasing interconnection between firearm violence, drug trafficking, smuggling, cybercrime, and organized criminal networks in the region. Intelligence, technology, and AI also featured prominently on the agenda. The meeting was attended by all 4 chiefs of police from the Caribbean part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Several presentations were delivered on behalf of the Board of Chiefs of Police. One of the presentations focused on the role of crime analysts in assisting law enforcement in combating crime in the region. The presentation addressed the growing role of intelligence and analysis within policing. Analysts contribute to identifying criminal networks, firearm trafficking flows, and cross-border links between incidents and suspects. The presentation also explained how firearm violence, drug crime, and gangs are becoming increasingly interconnected, and why regional information sharing and joint analysis are essential. Another presentation focused on the Regional Network Meeting for Analysts, RNA, and the 4th edition of this event. Over the years, the RNA has developed into a regional platform where analysts from across the Caribbean share knowledge and cooperate on regional security issues. During the presentation, it was announced that the 4th edition of the RNA is expected to take place from 24 to 26 November 2026 in Medellin, Colombia. The theme of the event will be Guns, Drugs, Gangs, Nexus, and Innovation. A presentation was also delivered on the project Strengthening the Resilience of Police Officers in the Caribbean Region, which is being further developed in cooperation with El Pacto 2.0. El Pacto 2.0 is a European Union cooperation and capacity-building program with Latin America and the Caribbean aimed at strengthening justice and security institutions and combating transnational organized crime. In the coming period, a regional assessment will be conducted into existing initiatives and needs within Caribbean police organizations. Minister of Education Melissa Gums is updating members of Parliament on the structured breakfast program with connectivity. The ministry has been exploring the possibility of a more structured school breakfast or school seating approach, so a potential partnership with the collectivity of St. Martin via its Seattle Central Kitchen and School Canteen model. As part of that exploratory work, the ministry is reviewing the previous arrangement through which the Dutch Red Cross provided support via sequels to schools on Dutch and math following Hurricane Irma. This is being used as a technical reference point to better understand what would be required for the government to pursue a similar type of arrangement, including the necessary coordination, those and responsibilities, food safety requirements, delivery, logistics, and financial implications, said the Minister of Education.
Update of the structured breakfast program with the collectivité de Saint-Martin. The ministry has been exploring the possibility of a more structured school breakfast or school feeding approach through a potential partnership with the collectivité of Saint-Martin via its Seattle Central Kitchen and School Canteen model. As part of that exploratory work, the ministry is reviewing the previous arrangement through which the Dutch Red Cross provided support via CITOS to schools on Dutch St. Martin following Hurricane Irma. This is being used as a technical reference point to better understand what would be required for government to pursue a similar type of arrangement, including the necessary coordination, roles and responsibilities, food safety requirements, delivery logistics, and financial implications. While the ministry's current fiscal constraints and austerity measures do not allow for the immediate rollout of a new large-scale program, the matter is not being set aside. In the interim, the ministry will continue to strengthen coordination with existing community partners, schools, the Ministry of VSA, and private sector sponsors to better align current support, identify gaps, and improve the structure and equity of assistance being provided to students. The ministry will also continue to work on developing a clear plan of approach, a roadmap, if you will, for a possible future school feeding model, including the operational requirements, estimated costs, potential partners, and phased implementation options. This will allow the ministry to plan more responsibly for future budget cycles and ensure that, when financial and operational conditions allow, the country is better positioned to move from ad hoc support to a more coordinated and sustainable program. Question 3. Natural hair is connected with academic performance. Is there an update? Through you, Mr. Chairman, this issue is being addressed through the draft Education Supervision Law, which includes provisions to prohibit hair-based discrimination in schools. The draft is currently moving through the formal decision-making process and should be with Parliament, hopefully after the summer recess. The ministry's position remains clear. Natural hair, hair texture, and culturally significant hairstyles should not become barriers to a child's access to education or full participation in school life. This is also consistent with the Convention on the Rights of the Child, including the principles of non-discrimination and respect for the child's cultural identity. While the legislative process continues, schools are expected to begin aligning their policies with this direction. The ministry has already communicated that natural and protective hairstyles should be respected, provided they are clean, maintained, and do not obstruct learning or create a safety concern. But it is not only about hair. It is about ensuring that students are not made to feel excluded, distracted, or made to feel that they do not fully belong because of who they are when their focus should be on learning. Question 4. Investing in time position of the ministry other than Literacy Month, what about MP involvement? What is being done to create that time or a roster to get volunteers to invest time other than in Literacy Month? Mr. Chairman, while the ministry agrees that literacy support cannot be limited to Literacy Month or one-off activities, sustained improvement requires structured support within the school system, supported where appropriate by community involvement. DPE will be appointing a new English language literacy coordinator for the new school year, and one of the focus areas will be strengthening literacy support across public schools, including structured reading interventions, teacher support, and coordinated opportunities for volunteers. Through the new literacy coordinator, DPE will be able to work with school management to identify where volunteer support is needed and develop a simple roster that is practical and aligned with each school's literacy priorities. This would allow support to be better organized and sustained rather than limited to one-off activities. Question 5. Assistance based on Article 43 of the Charter, has this been looked into on a kingdom level? Education should be seen as a fundamental right. They should become a kingdom matter, and maybe there is a lack of assistance. Have conversations be had, or will they be had? While formal discussion specifically regarding the EGMA results has not yet taken place at the kingdom level, the ministry has continued to utilize kingdom-level resources and collaboration through mechanisms such as TWO and the Vierlande Overleg to advance the necessary policy reforms and projects aimed at strengthening education on St. Martin.
The police force of St. Martin KPSM, arrested 2 male suspects in the early morning hours of Thursday, May 28, 2026. The suspects were arrested during a combined action carried out by detectives and patrol officers at a hotel located near the entrance of Pelican. The arrests are connected to an ongoing investigation into an armed robbery that took place on May 19, 2026, in the Simpson Bay area. During that incident, the victims were robbed at gunpoint, and several personal belongings were stolen from the victims. During the early morning operation, a detective officer involved in the investigation spotted one of the suspects, who was wanted in connection with the armed robbery, walking in the direction of the hotel near the entrance of Pelican. The detective immediately alerted fellow officers in the area regarding the suspect's movements and location. Further investigation carried out by detectives together with patrol officers revealed that the suspect was staying at the nearby hotel. Permission was requested and granted to enter the hotel room in order to effect the arrest. While officers were entering the room, another male suspect who was present attempted to flee through the patio area but was quickly apprehended by police officers on scene. Upon entering the apartment, officers encountered several rounds of ammunition for a military-style automatic firearm lying openly in the room. Both male suspects with the initials TR and TAR 20 and 21 years old were immediately arrested. During a search of the room, officers also discovered and confiscated a black handgun. Due to the discovery of the ammunition for a military-style weapon, officers conducted a comprehensive search in and around the hotel room. During this search, police later located and confiscated a military-style firearm believed to be connected to the suspects. Both weapons and all confiscated items were transported to the Phillipsburg police station for further forensic investigation. KPSM considers the presence of these dangerous weapons in the hands of criminals to be extremely concerning, not only for the safety of the general public, but also for police officers carrying out their duties.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
The governance is solely about reality, or whether it also includes the perception of criticism. Do you manage to? I agree with your point that good governance is not only about legality, but also about avoiding caveatism and maintaining public trust and confidence in the process. That is precisely why I could continue to emphasize that this particular matter should not be viewed as simply someone getting a job because of a connection. The issue here was ensuring that the government obtained the best possible service from the most qualified and at the same time, in the very specific and challenging circumstances, the minister made remarks in the House of Parliament.
Question posed by MP York. MP York asks whether the minister believed that good governance is solely about legality or whether it also includes the perception of favoritism. To you, Madam Chair, MP York, I agree with your point that good governance is not only about legality, but also about avoiding favoritism and maintaining public trust and confidence in the process. That is precisely why I continue to emphasize that this particular matter should not be viewed as simply someone getting a job because of connection. The issue here was ensuring that the government obtained the best possible service from the most qualified St. Martiner under very specific and challenging circumstances. We are dealing with high-stakes projects, strict World Bank and NRPB procedures, real risk of delays, manpower limitation, and the unique operation realities that have existed within the NRPB process from its inception. Under those circumstances, qualifications, technical experience, and institutional knowledge became extremely important. The individual selected was not chosen because of personal relationship, but because he was obviously the most qualified candidate during the bidding process and remains to this day the only St. Martiner with direct NRPB World Bank project management experience from the beginning stages to the completion of the required administrative and documentation processes. And again, this is exactly why input from the Department of Legal Affairs was requested immediately after it became clear who would likely receive the contract. If there was any intention to improperly favor an individual or bypass proper procedure, legal guidance would never have been sought in the first place. The request for legal advice was specifically meant to ensure that the process remained transparent, properly handled, and in line with good governance principles. So while I fully understand the concerns surrounding perception and conflict of interest, I also believe good governance requires government to ensure that critical projects are handled competently, professionally, and by individuals with proven experience necessary to protect the country's interests. Following question, MP York asked whether I am only coming before the House of Parliament because of the situation in which I currently find myself in. Through you, Madam Chair, Chairlady, MP York, as Minister, I firmly believe that from the very beginning, I followed every possible internal steps available to me regarding this matter. On multiple occasions, discussions were held directly with the Prime Minister concerning the proper legal procedures and processes that needed to be followed. Some of these discussions even took place in the presence of representatives from the government of the Netherlands. Because the Prime Minister had first approached them on the matter, in fact, that is how the ministry itself initially became aware of what was transpiring and of the request to bypass Article 47 of the Accountability Ordinance, which requires bidding process for projects exceeding 50,000 guilders, as well as the strict conditions attached to the agreement with BZK. Additional discussions also took place in the presence of the SG of VSA. Beyond that, I brought the matter to the attention of the Supervisory Board, the party leader at the time, and coalition partners. It is important to understand that the December situation, it is important to understand that by December, the situation had escalated significantly. At that stage, emails were being sent to the Netherlands suggesting that I had agreed to deviate from the established process, something that could have potentially put millions of guilders intended for St. Martin at risk. There was also the issue of an advice from the ministry being withheld from the Council of Ministers' agenda because the Prime Minister's preference of preferred candidate did not receive the assignment. Most concerning to me was that I was being asked in writing to disregard the entire bidding process and approve a specific candidate. I was also made aware that the SG of VSA had been approached with the request to adjust the TOR, or the terms of reference, so that the individual in question could meet the criteria. For me, Madam Chair, that crossed the line, many lines. That is precisely why, in December, I formally informed the Prime Minister through a memorandum that if the advice was not promptly placed on the agenda, I would report the matter to the Integrity Chamber and the Ombudsman. So to answer your question directly, MP York, no. I am not only addressing this matter now because of the situation I currently find myself in. I have been raising concerns internally for months and made it clear to the Prime Minister as far back as December that I intended to formally report the matter if these actions continued. And quite frankly, I believe that is the main reason I am here today.
The Prime Minister, Dr. Luc Mercelina, wishes to provide additional clarity following comments and discussions that emerged during today's public meeting of Parliament concerning physicians, medical qualifications, and the legal framework governing the practice of medicine in St. Martin. The Prime Minister emphasized that any statements or public insinuations suggesting that physicians practicing on St. Martin are inherently unqualified are very misleading, legally inaccurate, and unnecessarily create fear and uncertainty among the people of the country. Prime Minister Mercelina referenced the applicable legal provisions governing the practice of medicine in St. Martin, noting that the law itself recognizes both standard licensing requirements and exceptional circumstances that may arise within the healthcare sector. Article 2 of the National Ordinance regulating the practice of medicine outlines the regular admission and licensing requirements for the practice of medicine in St. Martin, the Prime Minister explained. However, Article 3 of this National Ordinance specifically provides for exceptions in situations where unforeseen circumstances result in shortages of medical assistance within the country. The Prime Minister additionally clarified that within the applicable legal framework of St. Martin, it is possible for a physician to practice as a general practitioner without holding a formal family medicine specialist degree or specialization. Once the physician is legally authorized and registered to practice medicine in accordance with the laws and regulations of the country. A family medicine specialization is a separate specialist qualification, Prime Minister Mercelina stated. At this time, it is not an absolute legal prerequisite in St. Martin for a physician to function as a general practitioner. Therefore, it is important that the public not be misled into believing that the absence of a family medicine specialization automatically renders a physician unqualified to lawfully practice medicine or provide general medical care. The Prime Minister further noted that this approach is not unique to Sint Maarten and exists in other countries. For example, in Colombia, becoming a licensed doctor already allows an individual to work as a general doctor, the Prime Minister stated. Family medicine specialization is considered additional advanced training and not a basic requirement to function as a general practitioner. This demonstrates that healthcare systems internationally may distinguish between the legal authorization to practice medicine and specialist qualifications. The Prime Minister also referenced the existing legal framework governing exemptions and the establishment of medical professionals in Sint Maarten.
Now for the weather forecast, tonight through Saturday midday. Fair to partly cloudy and hazy. Brief isolated showers are possible. Surface winds, tonight through Saturday midday. Easterly to east-southeasterly with a gentle to moderate breeze at 8 to 14 mph. State of the sea, slight waves, swells, up to 4 feet outlook through Sunday midday. Partly cloudy and hazy, brief isolated showers possible. And now your 3-day forecast.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurance.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurance.
Marinka Gums, Minister of Finance, did not see any formal input or advice from the Bankers Association included with these draft legislation, particularly this specific draft law. Can the minister indicate whether the Bankers Association was consulted during the drafting process, and if not, why not? Additionally, would it still be possible to obtain and share their feedback with Parliament before the public meeting?
MP York did not see any formal input or advice from the Bankers Association included with these draft legislation, particularly this specific draft law. Can the minister indicate whether the Bankers Association was consulted during the drafting process, and if not, why not? Additionally, would it still be possible to obtain and share their feedback with Parliament prior to the public meeting? Through you, Madam Chair, the 4 draft national ordinances were submitted in 2020 to various representative organizations for advice, including the International Banking Association and the Curacao Bankers Association. The explanatory notes to the draft legislation also reflect that amendments were made based on the feedback received during that consultation process. While no specific consultation notes were shared with me as minister, it is clear that both the International and Curacao Banking Association were consulted, particularly given that many banks operating within the monetary union have their headquarters or main offices in Curacao. I am not entirely sure if this is where the Honorable MP was heading with the question, but I do agree that going forward, it would be beneficial to also formally engage the St. Martin Bankers Association so that local perspectives and input are equally reflected in the consultation process. Next question. Minister, do you stand behind all 5 laws as currently presented today in Parliament? Through you, Madam Chair, yes, I fully stand behind all 5 draft national ordinances as presented to Parliament. I personally submitted the last 4 draft laws to Parliament, and I also strongly support the oldest draft legislation because it promotes uniformity within the monetary union, has already entered into force in Curacao, and supports the continued connection to international payment and security systems. Additionally, I believe it is important to uphold continuity and stability in government policy and financial governance. Next question. As it pertains to this particular law, the LTEV, I see a stamp, according to the MP, and he understood through the presentation that there is a slight sense of urgency to these proceedings as it pertains to these laws. The MP looked to this particular law and he sees a stamp in Parliament in 2023, and we're now in 2026. So his question, Madam Chair, through you, would be why the minister assuming office waited until now to bring the law and not in the year 2024 or 2025. Through you, Madam Chair, the LTEV was already submitted to Parliament in 2023 prior to my tenure as Minister of Finance. Since assuming office, my focus has been on ensuring broader coordination and alignment of the remaining draft national ordinances within the monetary union framework. As developments progressed, particularly in light of the increased focus surrounding the Mayville process, I took the decision to move forward with the remaining draft laws together rather than delaying the process any further. The intention was to ensure continued legislative progress, strengthen our regulatory framework, and support St. Martin's international financial standing.
This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.